Hello everyone, it's the Space Chaser again. Welcome to Grimsby. This is the first of two parts. We're going to look at the Peaks Parkway project, the road project from the 1980s and 1990s. Peaks Parkway itself is the new course of the A16 road. It runs from a junction with Victoria Street, which we'll see shortly, and it goes just under 3.5 miles to New Waltham. It enabled the old A16 that ran along Baxtergate and through Scatha to be bypassed. However, it was phase 3 of the Peaks Parkway project, and it'll be part 2 of this video series. In part 1 we're going to look at phases 1 and 2 of the project. Part 1 was Frederick Ward Way, opened in 1988, and part 2 was Ellis Way, opened in 1993. And we'll look at those very shortly, but first of all, to understand the project fully, we've got to go back 16 years before the opening of Frederick Ward Way in 1988, right back to 1972. Before the Peaks Parkway project was thought of, before Humberside County Council, who oversaw the project, was created. They didn't come along until 1974. We're going to look at the opening of Baxtergate. Now Baxtergate was, well, there basically, just to the left of that ramp to the car park that you can see. And we'll be looking sort of straight down it now from the end. It kind of ran between that car park ramp and the multi-storey there, heading away from us. It was conceived as part of an urban ring road, but the scheme for the urban ring road failed before it even opened. Part 2 of that scheme would have seen some demolition of property around Baxtergate, and that was controversial even back in 1972. Now the original scheme for Baxtergate, as part of the urban ring road, was it would be one way towards me, so traffic coming towards me. It would carry buses heading west or south. They would stop at stops at the side of the road and drop the passengers off who were going to that shopping centre that you can see there. That was the Riverhead shopping centre at the time. Because the urban ring road scheme fell through, Baxtergate had its traffic flow reversed before it even opened, so traffic actually headed away from me, and it carried eastbound buses. There are no northbound buses at this point, because in a short time they would drive into the River Humber. But that meant passengers were getting off on the wrong side for the shopping centre, so what they did hastily was they added 4 pedestrian subways to the scheme. Now the subways caused problems. It tended to flood when it rained. They weren't popular, they were dark, they were unwelcoming. No doubt, knowing pedestrian subways, they probably smelled of urine as well. So what you had was the Riverhead Centre, you had Baxtergate, and then to the left of it you had a car park, not the multi-storey that you can see now, but just a surface level car park on the ground. In the mid-80s there was a proposal to extend the shopping centre across the site of the car park, but they didn't want to bridge Baxtergate or even use the subways. What they wanted to do was move Baxtergate across, and that became the first part of the Peaks Parkway project. Just quickly before we look at that first part, we'll just explain what did happen. So that did happen, the new road was built, the shopping centre was extended across the site of Baxtergate and across the site of the car park. The expanded shopping centre was renamed Freshney Place. So this is Frederick Ward Way. This was phase 1, as I said, of the Peaks Parkway project. The idea behind phases 1 and 2 was they just gave the traffic somewhere to go. Humberside County Council realised that if they just built a new A16 and put the traffic into the existing road network, that road network wouldn't be able to cope. So they built these roads first to be able to distribute the traffic and, filter it on and off the new road. It was originally intended to call this road Baxtergate after the one it replaced, but when it opened it was called Frederick Ward Way, after one of the former town clerks of Grimsby. The official opening of it took place on the 14th of June 1988 by Joyce Ward, Frederick Ward's widow, and the road actually opened on the 20th of June 1988 for traffic, so 6 days after the official opening. It cost £2 million to build. As you can see from the brief clip there, the road is actually two-way, not one-way as the one it replaced was. And what it does, it acts as a town centre bypass, so it brings traffic from the area of Baxtergate and Dudley Street, and it allows it to avoid the town centre. In taking the traffic away from the town centre, what they did was they enabled part of Victoria Street to be pedestrianised. Again, we'll see that very shortly. You can see they used all the available land. You've got Freshney Place and its car park there. The road here, and then there's the bank of the River Freshney there, so they couldn't have moved it across any further. As you get towards the end of Frederick Ward Way, it flares out into a dual carriageway because there's a couple of road junctions. You can see there's a footbridge there across towards the National Fishing Heritage Centre. The footbridge was built as part of the project. The one that's there now isn't the same one. That's a modern replacement from just the last couple of years or so, but it's on the same site as the one that was built in 1988. So I'm just going to turn off to the right here and show you where Baxtergate came out and how it filtered into the rest of the road network and how that differed from Frederick Ward Way. So Baxtergate came out at the other end somewhere here, and then it turned through 90 degrees and went down that way to join onto Victoria Street, which I'll show you in a moment. So Baxtergate came along here, and then traffic had to turn left onto Victoria Street and go around there if it was going towards the A180 and the docks. If you look back the other way, you can see the pedestrianised bit of Victoria Street. That was enabled by diverting the traffic along Frederick Ward Way. After Baxtergate closed and Frederick Ward Way opened in 1988, this area was made into a bus station, so buses would either drive in through the bus station and out into the town centre, or they would come from the town centre through here, through the bus station and out onto Frederick Ward Way. The bus station here closed in the early 2010s and was replaced by the street stops you can see just behind me. I did cover that in a thing about the bus stations of Grimsby. I'll put a link in the description to this video to that one if you'd like to see it. I'll also put links into the video that inspired this view. I bought a couple of artist impressions of the Peaks Parkway project, one of the Victoria Street junction and one of Ellis Way. I've done separate videos on those artist impression paintings, and again I'll put the links to those videos in the description to this one. So whereas Baxtergate had come out and turned through 90 degrees and gone back into the existing road network, Frederick Ward Way carved its own path and made a junction with Victoria Street a bit further up. As you can see, the new road carried straight on and went across this bridge over the head of the River Freshney. Now apparently this is called the Sim-White Bridge. I should say I've never heard anybody in Grimsby call it the Sim-White Bridge. I wasn't aware of the name, but in the research for this video I found it was actually called the Sim-White Bridge. Apparently it's named after an earlier bridge that was on the same site that presumably was pedestrian only. But again, I've never ever heard it called that by anybody. But yeah, there we go, the Sim-White Bridge. As you can see, the bridge is in two parts, one for each carriageway. Just over the Sim-White Bridge, a junction was put in for a retail park that appeared very shortly after the road opened. And there is the retail park in question. It was originally Allied Carpets on this end, which is now Home Bargains. And then the other bit was various different things. There was a bed warehouse, there was a tile shop, but at a later date they've all been knocked through into one store, which is now B&M, as you can see. You can also see the little individual entrances for the different units that would have been there. I think there was you can see three of them, there was a fourth one as well. So here we are at the end of Frederick Ward Way. We'll just look back along it there. You can see all three phases of the Peaks Parkway project here. Phase 2 is just across there, that's Ellis Way, and Peaks Parkway itself is there. When Frederick Ward Way arrived, there was only Victoria Street, which is there. That comes round from where we've just been, where we looked at where Baxtergate came out, and Victoria Street continues up there towards the A180 and the docks. There was also the remains of Upper Spring Street, which you can see the name board of on that former church opposite. And there was Queen Street that came down roughly where the white car's coming out, roughly the alignment off Peaks Parkway itself. So the second phase of the Peaks Parkway project was known as the East Marsh Link Road. When it was being planned and constructed, it opened as Ellis Way, and that's where we're going to go next. So as we said, this was known as the East Marsh Link Road when it was being planned and built. It linked Frederick Ward Way, the new town centre bypass type road, to the East Marsh, as the name would suggest. The heavily populated East Marsh area, and also to the then busy shopping area of Freeman Street, which is just down there. We'll see that in a moment. It opened on the 10th of December 1993. Before it opened, the name was changed to Ellis Way. It was named after Peter Ellis, who was a councillor of Grimsby and had served as Lord Mayor in 1976. The road is a quarter of a mile long. It cost £2.3 million to build, and the contractor for it was Norwest Holst. It was by all accounts a pain to build because, as you can see, almost immediately from the junction there with Victoria Street and Frederick Ward Way, it burrows down underneath the railway line between Grimsby and Cleethorpes. Cleethorpes is to the left, Grimsby is to the right. Now, digging through the ground wasn't hard. Excuse me, my voice is going. Digging through the ground wasn't hard. As the name suggests, it was quite marshy, but what was difficult was getting it to stay dug, basically. It used to collapse back in on itself, but they eventually managed to get there. As you can see, the pavement doesn't dip down as much, it stays at a higher level, so pedestrians aren't having to go down and up steep gradients. It also keeps you out of the flood water. It does occasionally flood when it rains heavily. Not particularly badly, it's not very deep, but it's enough that if you're walking down the bottom of it, it would come through your shoes. Just a closer view of the railway bridge there. So as we said, it was opened on the 10th of December 1993. It was opened by George Hobson, the chairman of the Humberside County Council Planning and Transportation Committee. And you can see it's not a very long road at all. There's the junction we've just come from, with the church on the corner. And if you look underneath, the set of traffic lights in the distance where the car is just turning, that is the end of the road. So shortly after the railway bridge, you come to a road junction with the Asda store there and Hollis Street across the road there. Apologies for the low sunlight. The Asda store was built in the mid-80s. One of the deciding factors for it being located here was the forthcoming East Marsh Link Road. The original entrance to Asda was from Railway Street on the other side. That's still there, but that was the main entrance. But the promise of an entrance onto the new East Marsh Link Road was a deciding factor for Asda, and that's one of the reasons they put the store here. It replaced an earlier store that was on Cleethorpes Road. And there is the end of Ellis Way, Hainton Square, the junction with Hainton Avenue going off to the right there, and Freeman Street, where the bus is just coming from. Straight ahead is Eleanor Street, that takes you down into the East Marsh area. There was formerly a roundabout here, but as you can see now it's a traffic light junction. It was a traffic light junction when this road opened. So that was phase 2 of the Peaks Parkway project. Phase 3 was Peaks Parkway itself, and as I say, that will form part 2 of this video series. I'll put the link in that to the description to this one, but as always, thank you for watching. Let's have a quick look back down the road there. Take care, I'll see you soon, bye for now.